Howdy ho, howdy ho, howdy ho. How y'all doing? I feel like crap. I feel like crap. But the good news is, I was double vaxxed and boosted, so this definitely isn't COVID. I probably got like the chicken flu or something. Because remember, once we get vaccinated, COVID goes away. Oh, remember those days. Remember those days. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, vaxxed, boosted. Wife vaxxed, boosted. We have COVID again. Well, she has COVID. She has COVID. We know she has COVID for the third time. So we're figuring I have COVID for the third time. It's not as bad. It's not as bad this time. Third time's the charm when you get COVID, I suppose. Not a very nice charm. It's kind of like one of those cheap things from the dollar store that kind of starts tarnishing 3 seconds after you take it out of the store. But anyways, that's how it goes. That's how it goes when you're the founder of a fever dream. Sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes you have a lot of work to do, and you get chicken flu. Chicken flu, obviously, that's what I have. Anyways, Silicon Dojo. If you don't know at this point, this is my pride and joy. This is my fever dream. We have our class coming up, hopefully on Friday. How to found a tech business. Ooh, I can explain that. We have our old classes here. We have our self-study program here. And we have office hours every Monday between 1 to 5. I get on Zoom and I talk with you folks about whatever issues you guys have. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's my sponsorship spiel right there. Oh, I feel like crap. Anyways, if I'm gonna feel like crap anyway, might as well talk about a stupid subject. So yeah, everybody now is freaking out. Apparently, freaking out about DeepSeek, and I find this to be absolutely hilarious. It's funny. It's funny because it's almost like somebody a couple of years ago was saying, "Well, wait a minute." And then everybody called me a moron. And now reality is doing what reality does. But anyway, so yeah, everybody's freaking out about this Chinese company called DeepSeek. They released a better open source AI image generator, so you can create AI images. So DeepSeek is open source and it's free to use. So basically, it's supposed to work at the level of ChatGPT o1, and it's supposed to actually beat it in a number of places, and it's coming from China. So anyways, it also is doing image generation, and as we can see with the NVIDIA stock is down quite a bit on the month. On the month, if you don't notice that, it's actually down 14% on the month. It is down, so it's down, 14% on the month. It's down about 15% on the 5-day, and it's up by 0.13% on the day. If you go and you take a look at the year, you can see it was going up, and then DeepSeek came out, and now everybody is having a conniption because I don't know. Who would have thought? Who would have thought if you strapped a rocket to a turkey, the turkey would ever hit the ground? But Eli, that turkey's flying. No, you strapped a rocket to a turkey. Turkey will meet the ground again. It's not going to be a landing. Anyway, so I thought this was an interesting thing to talk about because this is one of the things I've been warning about for a long time now. There has been this real boom, this real bubble in the AI sphere. And one of the things that I've argued for years at this point is that the IT world, the technology world, is not actually coming out with new products that people want, but the technology world needs to keep the investor frenzy going. So they keep telling us about these new products that we will want. Nobody actually does want them, but they're the future. This is the future. Just because literally nobody wants it doesn't matter. You gotta invest in it now. And again, I've talked about this before with things like the VR TV. I've talked about this with virtual reality or 3D TV. Yeah, virtual reality. I've talked about this with blockchain. I've talked about it with so much other stuff that's been coming down the pike where people don't actually want it. It's not that there's not a freaking use case. There is a use case maybe 2 use cases for blockchain. There are use cases for VR, but it's not going to be the iPhone moment. It's not going to be the laptop moment. It's not going to be the broadband moment, right? We had 30 years. We had about 30 years where technology companies were actually putting out products that people wanted, right? They wanted desktop computers. I remember wanting a desktop computer when we had no idea what to do with desktop computers. Again, in my era, when I was a kid, when you got a desktop computer, you didn't get internet with that desktop computer. You just got Word Perfect. Why did we want that? I don't know why we wanted that, but we really wanted that, right? And again, you get the 56K internet comes out, and they get web browsers that come out, and they get more and more stuff. And for a long time, right, new things were coming out that people actually wanted. And then we just hit the time period where it's fine. Again, iterative improvements. But think about it at this point. Again, even things like smart TVs themselves are now a decade or more old. At least, right? 13 years old, right? So much of the stuff that people are dealing with, assistants and all these kind of things, are a decade old. When was the last time you saw a piece of technology come out that you were actually really, truly excited about, right? And that's the issue that these tech companies are running into because basically they are built off of investment, right? If you're running a company, you need money. Money is a resource. And you don't really care by hook or by crook how you're going to get that money, whether you get that money by revenue, which is a good way to do it, or you get it from investors, which is a questionable way to do it. Money is money, right? When you pay the landlord doesn't give a damn how you got that money as long as you hand it over to them, right? Employees don't care where the money comes from as long as you hand over that money. And so the issue is if there's not enough revenue out there, then they're going to go for investors. And the problem is, though, when you have more and more of these products that are more and more worthless, that nobody gives a damn about, the issue is how are you going to get that investor money? And so you signal boost the idea that this crappy product that you have is the future. It's as dangerous as a nuclear weapon, so ergo you got to invest in it. And that's how you try to keep the party going. Again, I mean, it's like stupid things like with blockchain. There's this whole argument with Bitcoin, right? So since Bitcoin is valuable, anyways, we'll just put that. Let's just put it on the table. Let's just accept it. Let's just accept it, right? Since Bitcoin is valuable, ergo you have to invest in blockchain projects. What? It's not how this shit works, right? Just because Twitter was successful at some point in time did not mean you had to invest in NoSQL. Again, Twitter is a product, NoSQL is a technology. You didn't invest in NoSQL because Twitter was successful. Why would you invest in blockchain? Because Bitcoin is maybe successful, right? But there's this signal boosting because it's rah, 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 and it's just a whole bunch of garbage. It's just a whole bunch of trash, really. And so one of the big issues that's going on right now is, again, is this push for AI, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence, which it's just not. It's literally just not artificial intelligence. It's natural language processing. It's a whole bunch of different things. Again, amazing. Does it have value? Yes. Does it have a lot of value? Yes. Is it artificial intelligence? No. Is it as dangerous as a nuclear weapon? No. Things can be valuable without being that big a deal. Anyways, but they've been pushing this idea, pushing that this is the future. All of our jobs are going to go away, and you have to invest. And the thing is, building off of that, they've been getting more and more investor money to build more and more of these garbage projects. Again, when we are 2 years past ChatGPT really getting pushed out. And do I use ChatGPT? Honestly, do I use ChatGPT? Yeah. What do I use ChatGPT for? Your classes. That's literally all I use ChatGPT for, to be clear. Again, 2 years after it comes out, I pay the $20 a month because it's useful. Literally, when I'm sitting here and creating classes on JavaScript or whatever, again, the syntax sucks. Like, you can know exactly what you want to do. You gotta know where that comma goes. Anyways, ChatGPT is really lovely for being like, how do I do a loop in this particular language? Or how do I query this particular database? Right? Anyways, beyond that, I just don't use it. And again, that's not even snark. It's not even mean. It's not even mean. Whatever. It's not talking about syphilitic brains or anything like that. I just don't. I just fucking don't. I don't use Twitter. I don't use Facebook. And I really don't use ChatGPT for very much of anything at all. And so that's one of been my arguments. Again, it's the whole Tesla argument I've had for a long time now. Not that Tesla shouldn't be valuable, but should Tesla be valuable than every other car company in the world combined? right? That seems a bit questionable to me. And again, like I would say with OpenAI, these AIs, LLMs, or multimodal models, the question isn't should they be valuable, but they should be as valuable as they are. And the issue that you run into, again, with macro forces, is when so much money starts getting dumped by investors into a space, then these companies are able to pay more and more money because they have the more and more money. And then you start to have supply chain issues where basically there's more money chasing less product, available product, and therefore prices go through the roof. So GPU cards, right? Again, if NVIDIA came out and they came out with their new I think it's a Blackwell, anyway, the new Blackwell GPU, and like nobody cared, the price would be one level. When they're selling out of their entire production run before they've even started the production run, right, they can jack the price up a lot. Again, if you want AI professionals, right, again, if there's only so many of them, the price of that goes through the roof. And so basically we have this world where the tech companies have signal boosted the idea that AI is the future and AI is absolutely everything. And if you don't invest in AI, you're going to fall behind. They've then got a tremendous amount of investor money behind that. Because they've got the investor money, they're dumping all of that into the system, and it's creating the insanity that we see. The big issue that I talk about, though, is, again, even when we talk about blockchain or anything else, is, again, just things like technology architectures. Like, is this a good way to design systems? Like one of the things we don't talk about, like with LLMs, is why don't we see more caching systems? So what a caching system is when you make when you make a query, make a request, and you get a response back, right? When you run that through the LLM, that requires a lot of hardware resources, so RAM and CPU and GPU and all that kind of crap, right? That's also expensive from an electricity standpoint. Here's the thing: databases are dirt fucking cheap. I don't know how much exponentially less they are, but it's a hell of a lot less to run a database. So one of the things you can do for LLM, for quote unquote AI is request is essentially give it a memory, right? If somebody makes this request and you get this response back, put the request and response into a database so that when the next person makes the exact same request, instead of going through the LLM or the multimodal model, you'll simply go to the database. The hardware and the electricity resources and all that are significantly less. And the question that you start asking yourself is, when you think about an infrastructure, when you start thinking about a system that's thousands or millions of users are hitting, and then they're asking the questions. One of the things you have to think is how many times are the questions that somebody is asking a question that's already been asked in the past? Right? Just once. So again, if you have a caching system, if one person asks the question and another person asks the same question a month from now, they get the response back. If one person asks a question and then a million people ask the exact same question, they get the response back, right? Simply by designing your architecture better, you get better performance, and you also get less resource consumption. And so that's one of the big questions that I've had is every time they talk about these kind of things, it seems like basically they are finding the most resource intensive way in order to solve a problem, in order to, wait for it, boost the idea that they need more investment money. Again, we're not hearing about data centers being built for massive caching data stores. Like when was the last time you heard OpenAI say they need $5 billion to create the world's most impressive caching system? I don't know, right? Yes, we are creating a global caching system, because that's not sexy and that's not interesting. And that uses good old fashioned databases and racks of servers and the whole nine yards, right? So what they keep doing is they pushing the GPU. Anyways, the idea, this is the future. Then the other thing along with this too is, again, since this is where America has been doing well, there's this idea of American exceptionalism. Look, I'm getting tired of this shit. Look, I'm an American. I like America, I gotta say, but as an American, I'm getting tired of this stupid ass American exceptionalism. I saw one of our stupid ass politicians that literally said that America will always have the greatest economy. And that was just so stupid. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, at some point, China's going to surpass us. They got 4x the human beings we have. So even on a per capita basis, even if most of them are still poor, at some point their economy is going to beat ours, right? But there's this idea, the exceptionalism, American exceptionalism. And so that's the big drumbeat that I've heard with the Biden administration, is since we say that we're superior in this one particular realm, and brown people got to know their place, then we're trying to push down China. Got to push China, right? We can't allow China to get to parity. I do feel like we lost that race possibly a little while ago. All right, but that's why there's all these restrictions on selling GPUs to China, and not only selling GPUs to China, now these trade restrictions on selling GPUs to the rest of the world, with this idea of this is the thing that makes us superior. Why? Because the first dead president to serve in office doesn't quite understand how technology works. So, anyways, we get into this weird world now, and this is the point where the shoe drops, which I'm not exactly surprised that it dropped. Right? So you have China, who doesn't exactly like this. I want to tell the white boys out there something they might be surprised about. When you tell the brown boys to stay in their place, brown boys might not be amused. Anyway, so China's not amused about any of this horse shit, so they're doing whatever they're doing. And so that's where we get the whole DeepSeek. Is it an LLM or multimodal model? It's a reasoning model. So it's a reasoning model that came out. And the interesting thing with this is basically, apparently, it was able to be done for a fraction of the cost that OpenAI requires in order to train a model with the resources that China is actually able to get their hands on. And this is one of the problems you do run into, again, in this world of investors, in this world of technology, is that technology professionals will use all the resources you give them. If you give them resources, they will use all of them. It's kind of like nowadays, like if you open up a web browser and you go to a few websites, you have a few tabs open, you can have like an M3 Mac that's specced out to the extreme, and basically the tabs will bring your fucking computer to a halt. And the reason is because back in the old days, when you were building websites and things, you had to think about the performance of the hardware of the computer. Nowadays, the people building websites just assume you have all the resources in the world, and so now a few tabs open in Chrome will essentially crash your system. And that's kind of what happens, right? If you give resources to geeks, they will use all the resources and then ask for 10% more. That's just how we are. It's literally just how we are, right? You give us a rack of servers, we want a rack and a half of servers. You give us a data center, we really need a data center and a half, right? Anyways, so with China, right? So we are purposely restricted. We are purposely trying to keep China back from improving. Yeah. And so basically, they have the resources that they do. And so it does appear that they came out with this DeepSeek model using the resources that they had, which again is not much of a shock. And so what's curious is basically what happens with AI here in the US and AI globally going into the future. And I think one of the big issues that we see is this idea of first mover advantage, which is generally garbage. It's generally garbage. It's one of the lies that's used in the Silicon Valley world in order to try to drum up investment. That's usually garbage. It's basically what the idea of first mover advantage is that if you are able to get into a space and you are able to monopolize a space before anybody else can get there, then basically you own it, infinitum. Again, so the idea of Uber, right? The reason Uber tried to take over the world in the blink of an eye was the idea is if they owned that space, then they could own that space forever, right? A lot of these companies that are coming out, again, it's kind of that idea of first mover advantage. The problem is first mover advantage, again, that's where you look at OpenAI. So basically OpenAI for LLMs is a first mover advantage, right? They were able to push this particular technology out in the world. They got the most users as quickly as possible or whatever other horse crap metric they were using, and the idea that they would own it. The reality is that's just not how the technology world works. I mean, it's just not. Again, it's like my little Aspie brain just gets confused because people are like, well, first mover advantage. It's like, yeah, but that almost never works. That rarely fucking works. That rarely. Again, so if you look at Microsoft, right, it became one of the major big tech companies, right? They came into the world after Unix already existed, after Xerox already existed, after Bell Labs already existed, the whole nine yards. Basically, again, one of the issues you get with first mover advantage is you have to validate the idea. You have to validate that anybody wants this product, that anybody matters, and anybody cares, right? And so, like when Microsoft came in the world and when Apple came in the world, the value of computers was already known. The value of programming was already known. The value of office automation was already known. All of these things were already known. Basically, they just had to come in and improve the concept and turn it into a viable product. Again, if you look at Google, Google was not a first mover. Again, my first search engine was Lycos. Lycos, that was that little fucking black dog or whatever. I loved me some Lycos. Again, Google comes in, Google sees what everybody else is doing. They take their own route, and they take off and they become successful. Web browsers, again, nobody uses Netscape, or what was the original one? Mosaic? Was it Mosaic? Anyways, nobody uses the first web browsers anymore because they're gone. Again, smartphones. My favorite smartphone, right? Motorola Q. Do you remember Windows CE? No, you fucking don't. Anyways, my favorite smartphone of all time, Motorola Q. iPhone comes in. iPhone was not first mover by any stretch of the imagination. And why this is important is because the issue is when you're the first mover, there is a tremendous amount of expense that you are going to have to put on the table that the second, third, and 100th movers aren't going to. So simply validating the concept, validating that anybody gives a damn about your product, right? That actually costs a lot of money. Beyond that, when you're in the initial stages of building things out, initially technology is very expensive. Again, if you need that cutting edge technology, it is going to be the most expensive technology out there. So you're going out there, you have to validate an idea with incredibly expensive technology. On top of that, you have to have employees that are on the cutting edge. And again, they can't be like me. Again, I know where I am in the tech world. I ain't on the cutting edge of AI, motherfucker. I use APIs, right? Yeah, I mean, you need the cutting edge people that can adjust and can modify and can deal with the actual Linux kernel or the operating system kernels and all that kind of stuff. You have to do a tremendous amount of advertising. Again, to tell anybody that your product exists and that they should actually care about it. Again, client acquisition costs are going to kill you. We're going to have a class on Friday talking about starting a tech business. CAC, you gotta live and motherfucking die by CAC. That's just a reality, right? So when I ran my computer repair shop, we tracked client acquisition costs through because we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising, and that was the thing. Like if I used a radio ad cost me $3,000 per client. That was not a valuable use of my money. Google ads, on the other hand, AdWords at the time cost about $85. $85. Think about this for computer repair back before the Great Recession, right? But it wasn't bad. You're gonna walk in the door, you're gonna spend at least $200. I'd spend $85 all day long to get clients. And I did. Anyways, right, but that's CAC. One of the things to think about, though, like with Everyman IT. So doing the tech education now, but when I started, it's called Everyman IT back in 2009. Again, paying for AdWords to get the advertising. Do you know it costs $5? It costs $5 CAC, client acquisition cost, to get members on a free tech education website. To get members that were paying me jack shit cost me $5 a pop. And again, you start thinking about that as scale. I'm sure OpenAI and that are not spending $100 a day on their advertising budget. I'm sure they're spending a lot more. So you got to spend a shit ton of money on hardware. You got to validate what the hell's going on. You got to spend a lot of money on employees. You got to spend a lot of money on advertising. You got to spend a lot of money basically to fucking get anywhere. Well, here's the thing. The second movers, are the people that come behind you. Well, basically, when they become behind you, they're not going to have to spend money to validate the concept, right? They're like, wow, Look at these people. They have traction. They have something that works. Let's do something like that, only slightly different. Beyond that, when they go to hire people, again, being second movers, your company is going to have to spin off employees for whatever reason, right? And so the employees may have left naturally, or they may get poached, or whatever else. It's a hell of a lot easier to get employees. Hardware, right? When you're a first mover, you're buying cutting edge hardware. When you're the second mover, that hardware's been around for about a year. Take about 25% price cut on the hardware, so they can now buy the hardware cheaper. And again, advertising. These jackasses already spent all that money for advertising to basically get people to understand that whatever you're doing is important, and so you get that for free. Again, that's one of the things, like when I had my computer repair company, I thought was interesting. I was worried. I was worried when Best Buy bought Geek Squad. So Geek Squad had been its own thing. Best Buy bought Geek Squad, and I thought we were going to get destroyed. I thought we were going to get shattered. The interesting part was Best Buy spent a shit ton of money advertising Geek Squad, and then they did not spend the exact same time and care on making sure Geek Squad offered a good product. So you got a lot of people to know that they really should look for computer repair, and the people that went to Geek Squad got really crappy service. And so then you have people finding companies like mine. They're like, wow, I know I need computer repair, but my buddy went to Geek Squad and that was a disaster. So let me go find something like Eli Computer Guy, right? And so again, that's where you get like with Claude and Mixtral and all these kind of things. Like they can come in and they can say, hey, if OpenAI, ChatGPT doesn't do quite what you want, we have these other offerings here. Right, that's what you get with the second movers. Then the interesting thing becomes, again, once you start going down, you get the first movers, then you get the second movers, then you get the third movers, then you get the fourth movers, then you get the fifth movers. How long in the technology world does something go from being non-trivial to relatively trivial? Again, we're talking about the tech world, right? It's the speed of light, we're told. Again, OpenAI has been doing this stuff. There's LLMs been doing a lot of this stuff. How long until something gets to be relatively trivial? What happens when people start understanding different architectural styles? What happens when they start looking at what you did? They start learning all the lessons about your successes and your failures, and they go an entirely different route. And I think that's what we're seeing with DeepSeek. Is again, they are sixth or seventh mover advantage, and they can just come in, take all of the lessons learned, they can take all of the hype, and they can just take all of that and be able to deploy their product for a fraction of the cost. And people know that exists, and they know they should care. Blase, blase, blase. Well, I think this becomes even more interesting, again, with this geopolitical tension between old white guys and Chinaman, is because, again, the China people have every right to be pissed. Let me say it, as an American, fuck me if I was a China person, I'd be pissed. Fuck you, white boy. That's what I'd be saying. Hell, I say that half the time anyway. Anyways, right? So there's this whole thing, right? There's this whole thing with literally trying to repress Chinese growth because we think we have the manifest right to do that. Well, it becomes curious on a geopolitical scale is what if you're China? What if you're China and you know that the United States is literally trying to kneecap your country? And the way that they're trying to kneecap your country is with this particular set of products. And then you look at somebody like Mark Zuckerberg, right? And I've talked about this before with Llama, right? So Llama is Meta's LLM that's been around for a while. And one of the interesting things with that is basically he released it publicly. So it's not quite open source. It's not open source, but it is free to use, even on a commercial level, as long as you have like less than 700 million users. Apparently that was like the level Snapchat had. They didn't want Snapchat to be able to use Llama for free. So if you have over 700 million users, you've got to pay a licensing fee for Llama. But if you're under it, you don't, right? Anyways, one of the things I thought about before with that is that Meta is not in the AI world, right? They do not sell an AI product. They sell Instagram, they sell WhatsApp, they sell Facebook, they sell crappy SVR goggles, but they don't sell AI. And so one of the things I've talked about, again, in the tech world is this whole question getting about how to get employees and that type of thing. And so one of the things that Mark Zuckerberg can do is, since they're not really in the AI space, one of the ways he can try to get good employees and prove that Meta is doing something significant is they can essentially open source or make free this technology that they're creating internally to prove how impressive they are. So OpenAI sells their ChatGPT o1 for $200 a month because that is their business. Mark Zuckerberg is like, here you go, take it for free because it's not their business. And again, that's one of the things that I've questioned about the value of these LLMs and these multimodal models for a while is once you start getting enough of these really passive aggressive jackasses in Silicon Valley, which one of them will simply destroy the value of the other company? Again, like with Grok. Again, I'm no fan of Elon Musk, but XAI, and they've got their Grok, their multimodal model or whatever. Again, if he really wants to just try to screw OpenAI, basically just make the model free, right? Again, even if it's not technically open source, he can just try to kneecap them that way by doing other things. And so what becomes interesting on a geopolitical scale is what happens if China decides to do this. Oh, white boy is trying to keep China man down by not giving GPUs. So what if China man basically starts creating products that are either competitive or outcompete what we have, which is supposed to be, our cornerstone for the next 100 years or whatever. What if they start producing that and then they just ship that shit out for free? Or just for exceptionally low cost, right? That's one of the big arguments that's been happening right now with DeepSeek is this whole idea. So what we've been informed is that it costs $6 million so to produce the model. So when OpenAI produces a model, apparently it costs a couple $100 million, and so the idea was this was produced for $6 million. There are a lot of people pushing back and saying that's garbage, that it wasn't produced using low value NVIDIA GPUs, that they were actually using Blackwells, and then it costs a lot more. But here's the thing: if you're China, do you really give a fuck? Right? Right. The Chinese government just comes in and, gives this company, a few days or a few months of data center time, right, in order to produce this model. And then they just dump it on the market just to give America the big ass middle finger. Is not there not a value proposition there? If we have, so they're saying over the past couple of days that our stock market has lost like $1 trillion in valuation, right? Again, because there's this idiotic AI bubble. So if China is able to do $1 trillion in damage to our economy for somewhere around $6 million, even $60 million, is that not in their interest? And I think that's one of the things that's going to be curious going into the future and seeing how all this stuff kind of works out. And, again, from the AI, AI is garbage. Again, it's just simply not artificial intelligence. What I think is going to be more interesting is kind of like the economic machinations between old white guys and China people that are pissed off and how all that's going to flesh out at the end of the day. So yeah, what happens when China comes in as an eighth mover with government support, and their only goal is to embarrass the United States? Again, that's one thing you have to think about, like with wins and losses. I've thought about that before, like with the Middle East. One of the reasons why the U.S. has a real problem with the Middle East is Middle Easterners don't really understand the concept of losing. Right? Like, so when we had World War II, one of the reasons America loves World War II is that Germany and Japan lost. Right? We had a war, we won, they lost. Right? And they came to the table and they surrendered and the whole 9 yards. Well, one of the problems the U.S. has in the Middle East is the Middle Easterners just don't lose. Again, what happens when you have a war and the other side simply doesn't decide to lose? Right? That's a significant issue. It's one of the reasons we're complete utter disaster in the Middle East. But one of the things to be thinking about too is, again, on the larger geopolitical scale, when you're having these rivalries, again, what is the other side fighting for? What does a win for the other side look like? And one of the big issues that I have is, again, with the abject arrogance of the United States. When does a win for other countries around the world simply look like embarrassing the shit out of us? It may damage them a little bit. It may damage them a lot. But when do you get to the point that citizens of another country would accept a loss of GDP growth just to put the thumb in the eye of some old white guy in the United States. And again, what happens when that starts becoming an at scale thing? Again, we have a lot more friends that people like to talk about. Again, I've been around. People don't hate us quite the way people that Americans think we're hated. They also don't quite love us the way other Americans think the way they love us. It's a very mixed world. It's a very mixed world. And so again, it's an interesting thing to be thinking about, is especially in this current era. So in this current administration era, with just balls to the wall arrogance on the power of the United States, what happens when other countries start actively trying to damage our position, even if it might cause them harm? It's a thing that I ponder. So yeah, anyways, DeepSeek. Surprise, 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 is words I did not ever utter. Eli, are you surprised about DeepSeek? No, I am literally not. This is how the technology world works. I do feel that like a weird thing because I'm like, what is am I? I'm 48, getting close to 49. And there are those times I don't feel old. I really don't feel old. I still go to my runs. Again, I'm sick right now, but whatever. But I do feel like sometimes I'm like the only person that's been awake. And like, am I the only one that's been awake for like the past 40 years? Again, this is how our world works. This is literally this this is how the world, like, why is anybody surprised? Anyways, but they are. It's this thing called coffee. I would recommend it to everybody. It makes you more awake. It makes you more alert. You can see what's going on in the world. So yeah, DeepSeek's gonna come down the pike, and then more companies are gonna come down the pike, and the value of OpenAI and the rest are just gonna get trashed. It doesn't make sense. These LLMs should not be this valuable. These LLMs should simply not be this valuable. The reason these LLMs cost so much money is they're using an asinine way to basically distribute load over their architectures. That's what's going on, right? Basically, when you are investing in modern AI, you're investing in really shitty architecture, is what's happening. And so, as more companies come down the pike and there's more products out there, the fact of the matter is simply optimizing things like architecture and design is just going to provide an insane amount of efficiency and resource utilization increases, and yeah, and that's that. So, anyways, what do you think about DeepSeek? What do you think about OpenAI? What do you think about the AI bubble? What do you think about $1 trillion being taken out of the stock market by a $6 million product? Do you ever have a feeling as an American that maybe our system is a wee bit too vulnerable? Are you ever like, again, that was the whole thing like with Russia using social media ads. Like that was the big thing, right? During the 2016 election, we were told that Russia was an existential threat to our democracy. So we're spending $2 trillion on a weapons platform. So the F-35, that airplane, right? That's a $2 trillion weapons platform. And we are informed by our own government that Russia spending $30 million on Facebook ads is an existential threat to our democracy. So we spend $2 trillion on an aircraft and $30 million on Facebook ads can destroy our society. Maybe we need to shore up the foundations of our society. I'm just going to put it out there, put it on the table, but who am I? Anyways, that's all I got to say. I'm going to keep working on that SQLite. So we're doing the SQLite self-study, or I'm working on the SQLite self-study program right now. I wanted to finish Bottle. So most of Bottle is finished, the web app framework. I just have to do like 4 more videos. Unfortunately, I got bird flu. I got chicken flu. So, But anyways, we're going to finish Bottle, hopefully this week. Then we're going to get the SQLite. And then we're going to keep going. I'll keep going. So that's what you got to do. You got to push the ball forward. Sometimes you have good presidents. Sometimes. I know it's been a long time. I know it's been a long time since we have a good president. Anyways, sometimes the economy makes sense. Sometimes you have good presidents. Sometimes the economy doesn't make sense. And we have shit presidents. But here's the deal. You can't do much about it. What can you do? You keep pushing your ball forward. And so with that, fuck. I might get some Dayquil. It's like this headache. It's like the throat and the headache. Fuck chicken flu. I wish we had a vaccine for chicken flu. You know, if they had a vaccine and booster for chicken flu, I wouldn't be sick right now. See y'all later.